This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to learn something b'nagei Chanukah, and we're going to speak out a question, a halachic shaila, that is raised by Rabbi Eiger, and we're going to see the psak of the Mishnah Berurah about this situation. Now, it's really a very big privilege to be able to learn Rabbi Eiger. I believe that if a person wants to train themselves to think properly, so the first thing you need to do is you have to learn Gemara. But if you want to hone in even further, Rabbi Eiger's writings are certainly a very important way to train your mind to think clearly. And to study his analysis is a very important way to train your mind. So, Rabbi Eiger brings the following shaila. Let's say it's the 8th night of Chanukah. Yeah? It's the 8th night. And you forgot to make a bracha. We know before you light the nearest of Chanukah, on the first night, you make 3 brachos. You make lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. You make sha'asa nisim la'avosenu. And you make shachianu. Let's say it's from after the first night of Chanukah, you make 2 brachos. You make lahadlik ner shel Chanukah and you make sha'asa nisim. Well, what would the halacha be if, let's say on the 8th night, or the 7th night, or the 6th night, after you lit almost all the candles, you realize you didn't make a bracha, and you have 1 candle left? Could you now make a bracha on the last candle? Yes or no? Could you only make a bracha on the first candle? Or maybe we'll say, even though you already lit that first candle, but now you have 1 more candle to go, you could still make the bracha on the last candle.
Or maybe to shut down all the candles and start
So
over.
you're in the middle of lighting the candles, and for whatever reason you had temporary amnesia, and you get there, you light 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you have 1, 2, 3, I didn't make a bracha. Can I now make a bracha on the 8th candle? That's the shaila.
I think so, because just like if you're supposed to say hamotzi,
Yeah.
you know, you stop running out and say, oh my gosh, I gotta say hamotzi. Then you can say, you say hamotzi, then you can take another bite of
Okay,
bread.
good.
So maybe in that respect.
So you want to say, just like when you're still in the middle of eating, as long as you have food left, you could still make a bracha. So here too, by Neros Chanukah also, if you still have a candle left, you should still be allowed to make a bracha. Okay? Well, we'll see about that momentarily. Rabbi Eiger begins by saying that the brachas of Ala Nisim and Shachianu, you could definitely make, even if you've completed lighting all the candles. Let's say, for instance, on the first night of Chanukah, you lit the first candle. Now you have nothing to go. You have 0 to go. Sha'asa Nisim and Lahadlik Ner and Sha'asa Nisim and Shachianu, you could definitely make. You know why? Because even somebody who is not lighting candles and merely is walking through the street and sees someone else's menorah is allowed to make Sha'asa Nisim and Shachianu by looking at someone else's menorah. So why should my menorah be any worse than someone else's menorah? So if I lit my menorah, I finished with the mitzvah entirely, and I realized I didn't make any brachos, on the first night of Chanukah even, I could make Sha'asa Nisim and I could make Shachianu. But the question is, could I make Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah? Now on the first night of Chanukah, if I already lit 1 candle, there is no way in the world I could ever make Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah. I already did it. There's nothing to make Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah. You can't make a Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah on looking at someone else's candles, and I can't make it on my menorah if I already lit it myself. But now the question is, it's not the first night of Chanukah, it's the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th. And I lit the candles, but I have 1 left. So maybe I can make Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah on that 1 candle. That's the question of Rabbi Eiger. Sha'asa Nisim I can make by looking at the menorah. It's no worse than looking at anyone else's menorah. Shachianu I can make by looking at my menorah. It's no worse than looking at anyone. But the question is, what about Lahadlik Ner Shel Chanukah? So really what it boils down to, not what it oils down to. That wasn't so, okay? But what it boils down to is, could you make a bracha on Hidur Mitzvah, where you already performed the mitzvah, and now the only thing you have left is you want to be Mahader, you want to do it Mahadrin. Can you make a bracha on Hidur Mitzvah? Well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. That's the shayla. Could you make a bracha on Hidur Mitzvah? So maybe you'll prove, of course you can make a bracha on Hidur Mitzvah. let's say in my house there are going to be a lot of menorahs. Yeah. Now the question is, who remembers? How many people in a household have to light the menorah?
Depends what you Sephardic or Ashkenazi.
How many people have to light the menorah? So, the Iker halacha is ner ishu beisai, one menorah for the house. However, according to the Rambam says, mahadrin min ha-mahadrin is everybody in the family has to light the menorah. Right? That's how the Ashkenazim pass like the Rambam, that everybody in the family has to light the menorah.
Maid.
What?
Maid.
A maid?
Males or females as well?
Males and non-married females. Yeah, non-married females.
Oh, so wives don't do it.
Wives don't do it.
So what the husbands?
Rav Soloveitchik has some type. Rav Soloveitchik holds wives do it, but the Mishnah Berurah disagrees. We don't do it. Wives do not do it. Wives don't light the menorah.
Don't start it.
What?
So
So that according to the Ashkenazim, the Eiger, the Eiger din, the Eiger din, only one person lights, but it's considered mahadrin min ha-mahadrin. It's considered a nice way of doing that. Everyone in the family does it, male or female. Some Sofer writes females don't do it, but you should know that according to many poskim, even single girls light. Some Sofer says not, but that's what the Some Sofer writes in his Chedushin. But according to the simple understanding of the Rambam, everyone in the family lights except for a married woman. Wait a second. What do you mean everybody lights? When I'm the balabas, I made a bracha. How could my son make a bracha? Is he mechuyev to light the menorah? He's not obligated to light the menorah. He's doing no. He's fulfilling mahadrin min ha-mahadrin. Yeah, but how can he make a bracha? The mitzvah was performed already. The Iker halacha was performed already. The only thing he's doing is he's doing hiddur. So you make a bracha on hiddur? We have a raya that you make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah. That's what Rabbi Eiger says. We have a very clear proof that you make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah. The fact that everybody in the family lights the menorah and makes a bracha, it's a proof you can make a bracha even on hiddur. Says Rabbi Eiger, there's no proof. It's not a proof. You know why? Listen very carefully. If my son wants to light the menorah, what do you mean he wants to light the menorah? But I'm lighting it. Why isn't he yotzei with me? The answer is, he's mechavein not to be yotzei with me. Once he's mechavein not to be yotzei with me, then by him lighting, it's not a hiddur for him to light. He's mechuyev to light now. Once his kavanah is not to be yotzei with the balabayas, it's not a hiddur for him to light. He's obligated to light because nobody lit for him. Because his mindset, his kavanah was not to be yotzei with the balabayas. So you can't prove from the fact that everyone in the family makes a bracha that you can make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah. Because once they choose to light, their kavanah is not to be yotzei with the balabayas. So then they're mechuyev to light me'ikar adin. So they're not making a bracha on a hiddur, they're making a bracha on an absolute chiyuv. So bottom line is, we want to know, it's the 8th night of Chanukah, and you lit 7 candles, and you have one more to light, and you say, I didn't make a bracha. Could you make a bracha on the 8th candle? Rabbi say, the 8th candle, are you mechuyev to light 8 candles on the 8th night of Chanukah? No.
yes.
No. How many? No. No, don't tell me why, because you're not. So on the 8th night of Chanukah, you're only mechuyev to light 1 candle. Lighting 8 candles is mahadrin. So maybe I can't make a bracha on mahadrin.
What's the mahadrin?
Mahadrin means to do, again, according to the letter of the law, how many candles do you have to light every night of Chanukah? 1. Lighting corresponding to what day it is only considered hiddur. Hiddur means beautifying the mitzvah. It's not the baseline obligation, it's just doing the mitzvah in a more beautiful way. So now the question is, can I make the bracha on just beautifying the mitzvah? Or maybe no, maybe you can only make the bracha on the baseline mitzvah, and the baseline mitzvah I already did. Right, that's the issue. It's, let's say, the 5th night of Chanukah, so I'm supposed to be making the bracha on the first candle. The first candle is the obligatory mitzvah. In this case, I already lit the candle, and I forgot to make the bracha. Now the additional candles are only hiddur mitzvah. Are you allowed to make a bracha on hiddur mitzvah? That's the shayla.
The whole machlek is between do we light one candle go up or 8 candles go down? So maybe in this case he'll go by the one that goes down.
No, but he's not going down. No, I mean that would only be, first of all,
So that one that is
if it's the 8th night of Chanukah, that would only work out if he lit one candle. But if he lit 2, 3, 4, he's not going down. And also, you can't pass him like this, Shammai. Okay, so you got the question? Again, the question at hand is the baseline obligation every night of Chanukah is to light one candle, yeah? But in this case, he already did the baseline obligation, and the additional candles are only Hiddur Mitzvah. Can you make a bracha on Hiddur Mitzvah? That's the shayla. So, Rabbi Eiger says that for this you have to look in the Pri Chadash. Look at number 2. Pri Chadash raises a similar question. And the question is, it's the 6th night of Chanukah, it's the 7th night of Chanukah, let's say it's the 7th night of Chanukah. And he was a little farmished, farblunget, a little confused, a little hazy and daisy. And even though it was the 7th night of Chanukah, he thought it was the 6th night of Chanukah. And he only lit 6 candles. And then he realized, after he lighted 6 candles, he still has 1 candle to go. Can he make a bracha on the 7th candle? Again, in this case, not like the case we were discussing. We were discussing a case where the guy completely forgot to make a bracha when he lit the candles, and now he has 1 candle to go. Could he make a bracha on the final candle? No, Pri Chadash is talking about a different case. He made a bracha on the menorah, but he didn't write the correct amount, and now he has 1 candle to go. Do we say, well, my bracha did not go on the 7th candle? When I made a bracha, I thought it was the 6th night of Chanukah, so my bracha was only going on 6 candles. Now I realize it's the 7th night of Chanukah, and I have 1 more candle to light. Maybe now I have to make another bracha.
Rabbi, if he didn't make bracha, can he shut down all the lights and start all over again?
No, it doesn't help. He already did the mitzvah.
Do stop. Put a new candles.
No, he did the mitzvah already. The mitzvah is over. He did it. The fact that you put it out doesn't... Well, what's the halacha if you light near Chanukah, and then somebody comes into the room and he puts it out?
You
got the mitzvah. You did it. Glatstein zakukla. It's a shayla Gemara Shabbos. It's good. What if you lit the menorah and all of a sudden someone in the house opens the window and it blows out after 1 second? You don't light it again. You don't have to light it again. You already did the mitzvah.
So are you allowed to light the candles and then blow them out?
No, I didn't say that. It's a shayla. It's a shayla. If you light the candle, it depends. If your mindset was to light it out, so then you never lit it in a way that it was going to last for 30 minutes, because you knew you were going to blow it out. But if, let's say, you were planning on leaving it, and then you have to run out to a wedding, and now you want to blow it out,
for safety.
Now we could discuss that. We could discuss. No, not for safety reasons. Safety reasons you knew beforehand. If you knew beforehand, then you're not. Then you can't blow it out for safety reasons. What?
It has to burn a certain amount of time.
No, it doesn't. It has to be able to burn for a certain amount of time. It doesn't have to burn for right. But if you know you're going to burn out, then we can't. Then we're not going to say it was able to burn for a certain amount of time because you knew you were going to blow it out. Now the question is, could you change your mind and blow it? Maybe that's a different story. But again, Rabbi Eiger Shaila was where you forgot to make the bracha, and with 1 candle left, you want to make the bracha on the additional candle. The Pri Chadash has a different shayla. You made the bracha. You didn't forget to make the bracha. But you didn't know what night of Chanukah it was. And then, after lighting 6 candles, you realize you have to light a 7th. Can you make a bracha on the 7th candle? Says the Pri Chadash, no. Number 1. Because the Iker mitzvah is 1 candle. The additional candles are only Hiddur mitzvah. You don't make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah. And then the Pri Chadash says a whopper. Pri Chadash quotes the Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef says a story. Want to hear a story? Everyone likes a good story. This story took place many years ago in the city of Lunel. Where's Lunel? In France. And it was the 4th night of Chanukah, and they only lit 3 candles, and now we have 1 candle to go. Says the Beis Yosef, you don't make a bracha on the 4th candle. Why? Because when you originally made a bracha, the kavanah of the bracha was that this bracha will be going on any candles that I'm going to be lighting. So even though in my mind I only plan on lighting 3, but when I make a bracha, my kavanah is any candles that I'm going to be lighting, my bracha should cover. So then when I realize I'm really supposed to be lighting 4 candles, the bracha already is covering the 4th candle. Because when you made the bracha, you don't think only going on these 3 candles. You think whatever candles I need to be lighting, it should be going on. And now I realize I have to light 1 more. You don't make a bracha because the original bracha covers even the 4th candle. So says the Pri Chodesh. So you see, you don't make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah.
So that's how Sfaradim poskim.
One second. There's nothing to do with Sfaradim.
Why?
But that way,
One second.
if you make it on the first day, then they would take of everything.
However, says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, this Beis Yosef that the Pri Chodesh quotes, not only does it not prove that you don't make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah, it proves that you do make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah. What? But the Beis Yosef says that the story happened in Luniel, and it was the 4th night of Chanukah, and they lit 3 candles, and the Beis Yosef said, you don't make a bracha on the 4th candle. So don't you see, you don't make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah on that 4th? No! You see, you do make a bracha. Why? Because the Beis Yosef says, what's the reason why you don't make a bracha on the 4th candle? Because when you made the bracha originally, the kavanah was that bracha should cover even the 4th candle. But that implies that had it not been for your kavanah covering all the candles, you would make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah. You would make a bracha on an additional candle. And therefore, in this case, I didn't make any bracha originally, and it's the 8th night of Chanukah, and I lit 7 candles. I said, oy vey, I didn't make a bracha yet, and now I have 1 candle left that's Hider Mitzvah. The only reason the Beis Yosef says not to make a bracha on the remaining candle is because the original bracha is covering all the candles. But in this case, where I didn't make any bracha, says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, it would seem from the Beis Yosef you would make a bracha. And in fact, the Eliyahu Rabbah paskins that not only do you make a bracha on an Eiger mitzvah, you even make a bracha on Hider mitzvah. So says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, in our case at hand, where it's the 8th night of Chanukah, and you lit 7 candles, and you have 1 candle left, and that candle is Hider mitzvah, should you make a bracha on it? So right now it's a machlokes between the Pri Chodesh and the Eliyahu Rabbah. Pri Chodesh says you don't make a bracha on Hider mitzvah.
What's the Hider mitzvah?
Hider mitzvah is lighting more than 1 candle, beautifying the mitzvah. And the Eliyahu Rabbah says, no, you do make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah. And the proof would be from the Beis Yosef himself, because Beis Yosef says, the only reason you don't make a bracha on that 4th candle is because the kavanah, when you made the original bracha, covers all future candles. Well, in this case, I didn't make any bracha, so I should make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah. Now, so if you were all poskim over here, if you were all halachic authorities, at this step in the Shiur, if somebody would come and say, you know what, it was the 8th night of Chanukah, and I forgot to make a bracha, and now I'm up to the last candle. Should I make a bracha? Yes or no?
Yes.
What would the answer be?
Depends who you hold.
So far, I didn't hear any right answers.
You passed by Rabbi Glatstein.
If now we're talking. Now I'm just talking. If so it's a machlokes. Pri Chodesh says what? You don't make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah. The Eliyahu Rabbah says you do make a bracha on it. So what do you do when you have a machlokes haposkim about a bracha? Safek bracha is the haka. You can't make a bracha. Because the Pri Chodesh, whenever you're not sure whether to make a bracha or not, now if it's food, don't eat the food. It's like, if it's I don't know what bracha to make on the food. Shahakal. No, don't eat it. You don't know what bracha. Well, either find out what bracha. You can't say, I don't know what bracha is, I won't make a bracha. Don't eat it. But if you're not sure whether you make a bracha or not, then you don't make a bracha. But says Rabbi Akiva Eiger, I'm going to throw in 2 more factors why if it's the 8th night of Chanukah and you lit 7 candles, you're going to make a bracha on the final candle or the final 2. So far we only have 1 factor, and that's the Eliyahu Rabbah who says you make a bracha on Hider Mitzvah.
Right, but you brought another case.
Okay, right. It could be the 2nd night and you have 1 to go. You're right. It could be any night.
But you started it with the Bnei Bait. Is the kid supposed to do bracha or not supposed to do bracha? According to that, he's not. It's a brachot lakel.
No, so that's what I was saying. Rabbi Eiger said that when a kid, that even according to the Pri Chadash, that you don't make a bracha on Hiddur Mitzvah, a kid who wants to light would make a bracha. Why? Because his kavana is not to be yotzei with the Baal Habayis. Once he's mechave not to be yotzei, so now he's mechuyev meikar hadin. So his bracha is not on a Hiddur, it's on a chiyuv. Okay, that's what Rabbi Eiger says.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Can a man make a bracha on his son's bris on the day the son is born in anticipation of the bris?
Ah, very good. So Mr. Grossman wants to know, a person has a son, and he makes the bracha as soon as the kid is born. Baruch atah Hashem l'gin melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvah tzivanu lehachnisoi b'vrisa shel Avraham Avinu. And everybody's saying, well, what's wrong with this guy? The bris is on the 8th day. He said, no, it's going to go on the 8th day. The answer is no. Because by that time already, your mind is distracted. In the interim, your mind has been distracted from the mitzvah, and that's a hefsek, that's an interruption between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah 8 days later. In general, when it comes to making a bracha on a mitzvah, you're supposed to do it immediately prior to the performance of the mitzvah. So for instance, when you put on your talis, you don't make a bracha when the talis is in the bag, because that's too much in advance. You don't make a bracha when you take the talis out of the bag, that's also too much in advance. You make the bracha while you're holding it over your head, about to wrap it. So you hold it, and then you do the atifa.
So there's the 8th candle and the 1st candle. So I think you said that the 8th candle was covered by making a bracha on the 1st candle.
Yes. No, so you want to know why is it not an interruption? Let's say I made a bracha, and I lit 3 and I realized I was supposed to light a 4th, so we said, well, the bracha covered the 4th. Why don't we say that's an interruption? Because it's within enough time, and you're not involved in other activities. You're still involved in doing the mitzvah, so your mind has not been distracted from the performance of the mitzvah. So the bracha is not considered interrupted from the full performance of the mitzvah. You're still actively involved in it.
What happened if you forgot? Let's just say that you got a phone, you lit the candle,
and then
you got a phone call, somebody says, well, today's the 5th day, and then you got distracted.
Oh, so then, now we're dealing with that would actually be exactly like a case where somebody entirely forgot to make any bracha, and then he remembered with 1 candle left. Right. Very good. A case where a person did make a bracha, and then lit too few candles, and then got distracted, would be exactly like a case where a person did not make any bracha at all, and then he remembered with 1 or 2 candles to go. Okay.
Do we go right to left, or does it make any difference, or left to right?
It does make a difference. You go left to right. You go left to right. Kol pino she'ata poina liyamin. You start with the leftmost candle, and you go toward the right. Okay?
Yeah,
right.
Left to right.
Left to
So
right.
it's your yamin. No, what is it? How do you do that?
You go from your left to the right. Okay, but that has nothing to do with anything we're discussing today. Okay.
Yeah, but it's
Okay. Says Rabbi Eiger, what's the halacha if you're in the middle of davening and he goes, hey, I didn't make a bracha on my talis? We say, well, the Gemara says in Psachim, Kol brachos mevarech aleim oiver la'asiyasan. All brachos, you have to make the bracha before the performance of the mitzvah. So that's why you make the bracha before you put on the talis, before you put on the tefillin. Well, what if you're in the middle of davening and say, hey, I put on my talis 45 minutes ago, I didn't make a bracha. Are you up the creek without a paddle? Let's say you put on your tefillin, and then you realize at the end of the day, I didn't make a bracha on tefillin. Well, it's not a problem, because you could always make a bracha on talis, you could always make a bracha on tefillin, while you're still wearing the talis and wearing the tefillin, because the bracha will be before the continued wearing of the last 10 minutes of you wearing. In other words, yes, you have to make a bracha before you perform a mitzvah. But talis and tefillin has continual performance. So even though you didn't make the bracha before you put it on, you can make the bracha now, and then for the next 10 minutes, your bracha is before the next 10 minutes of wearing the talis, or the next 10 minutes of wearing the tefillin. But let's say, Now in the middle of the shiur you say, hey, I didn't make a bracha on my talis this morning. You can't make a bracha on the talis anymore because the performance of the mitzvah is over. Right now, let's say it was, hey, I didn't make a bracha on my tefillin this morning. Well, hopefully you'll make a bracha tomorrow. Right? So the halacha is that if you're still within the performance of the mitzvah, you can make the bracha on the continual performance. But once the mitzvah is complete, you can't. Says Rabbi Eiger, listen carefully, that there are different kinds of mitzvahs. Certain kinds of mitzvahs, you do it and then you're finished, the mitzvah is over. And certain kinds of mitzvahs have duration of time. Says the Rosh, any mitzvah that has duration of time, the language of the bracha begins with the lamed. For example, lihaniach tefillin, lihisatef batzitzis, leishev basukah. But not al natilas yadayim. Once you washed your hands and you dried your hands, you're done. You can't say, oh, I forgot to make a bracha on this, I'm going to make it now. Too bad. You're out. Yeah?
What about eating an apple?
But there's no mitzvah to eat an apple. There's no mitzvah in the Torah. Yeah, but it's not a brachas ha-mitzvah, it's a brachas ha-nenin. We're talking about brachas ha-mitzvahs. Yeah?
If you realize after you started biting in the apple, you haven't said a bracha.
Well, you have to make a bracha on the next bite. Right? Okay. So, but the laws of brachas ha-nenin are different than the laws of brachas ha-mitzvahs. Says the Rosh, what bracha do you make on Chanukah? Al hadlakas neiros? No. Lehadlik. Oh, lehadlik means it's a mitzvah that has duration. What is the duration of the mitzvah of Chanukah? It has to burn. From when? For how long? What does the Gemara say? Ad shetichla regel min hashuk. It has to burn the amount of time from when people go home until people get home. Ad shetichla regel min hashuk. In other words, you have to put in enough oil to last for 30 minutes. Let's say I put in enough oil to last for 28 minutes. Well, hopefully you did other mitzvahs that day, but you didn't get the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, right? Hopefully you put on your tefillin right that day. Hopefully your tefillin wasn't on your nose also. But Ner Chanukah you didn't get. Right? Ner Chanukah you didn't get. If you put in enough oil to last for 28 minutes, you're out. You're all burnt out. You didn't get the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah. So that means the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah has duration. Like talis and tefillin. Well, the same way talis and tefillin, if you forgot that to make the bracha, you could always make the bracha in middle of wearing the talis, in middle of wearing the tefillin, so too Ner Chanukah. Maybe you'll make the case that by Ner Chanukah, within the half hour, it's in the duration of doing the mitzvah, so the mitzvah is still being performed, so I could still make a bracha on the Ner Chanukah within the first half hour.
The first 30 minutes.
Even though you could make the case that it's not like talis and tefillin. Why?
Because you can put talit and tefillin after that again.
Because even though the mitzvah has duration, but the act of the mitzvah is merely to light it in a way that it could last that long. But once you lit it, it would be difficult to make the case that it's a continual performance of the mitzvah. You wouldn't say, it's not like talis and tefillin. Talis and tefillin, every minute that you're wearing it, you're fulfilling a mitzvah. By Ner Chanukah, not every minute it's burning, you're getting a mitzvah. It's just that you have to light it in a way that it burns for 30 minutes, but not every second it burns, you're still performing the mitzvah. But still, nevertheless, you could make the case, as Rabbi Eiger does, that since the Rosh compares lighting the menorah to wearing talis and tefillin, as long as it's still burning, it's still within the time frame of a mitzvah, and therefore you could still make the bracha. So according to that reason, even if you let's say you lit all the candles, you lit all 8 candles, and you realize you didn't make a bracha, according to that, you'd still be allowed to make the bracha. Because just like talis, while you're wearing, you can make the bracha. And just like tefillin, while you're wearing, you can still make the bracha. But Ner Chanukah, while it's burning for that first half hour, you still make the bracha. Says Rabbi Eiger, I'm not willing to go that far. I need 2 reasons. In order to make a bracha, you need 2 reasons. Number 1, it's still within the half-hour time frame of the mitzvah still being performed. And number 2, you need to also use the opinion of the Eliyah Rabbah that on a Hiddur mitzvah, you can make a bracha. And since I have one candle left, which is still beautifying the mitzvah, I can make a bracha. But you need both reasons together. But if you already lit the 8th candle, and now I'm not doing the mitzvah, I'm not doing Hiddur mitzvah, you can't just rely on the fact that it's like talis and tefillin and it's still within the time frame of the performance of the mitzvah. Plus, Rabbi Eiger says you could throw in one more reason to make the bracha. And that is, there is an opinion, which we don't paskin like, that if I put on my talis and then I take it off and I put it in his bag and I remember I didn't make a bracha, there are some poskim who say you could make the bracha afterwards.
After what?
After you took it up?
After you put it in the bag. By talis, by tefillin, by any mitzvah.
Put it on again or?
No, don't put it on again. You can make the bracha.
Means once you...
No, what is that?
Because they hold, b'di'eved, a bracha does not have to be over l'asiyasa. That's their opinion.
That's
l'chatchila. L'chatchila. We don't paskin that way. We paskin that once you put your talis and tefillin back in there, you can't make the bracha. But there are poskim, so you say, yeah, but says Rabbi Eiger, with all these 3 reasons together, again, what are the 3 reasons? Number 1, the Eliyahu Rabbah holds you can make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah. So you have 1 candle to go, it's still Hiddur, you can make a bracha. Number 2, you're still within the duration of doing the mitzvah. In other words, like talis and tefillin, you're still within the first 30 minutes, so the mitzvah's not over yet, you can make it. And combined with the poskim who hold that you could always b'di'eved make a bracha after the performance of the mitzvah. If you have all these 3 reasons together, Paskins Rabbi Eiger, you can make a bracha on your talis, the 8th candle of the menorah. Do we paskin like Rabbi Eiger? Yes. Look in number 6, the Mishnah Brura, in Siman Tafresh Ayin Vav, Sivkat and Daled. First he writes, when you make the bracha on the menorah, you have to make the bracha before. T'bayinan sheyu habracha is over l'asiyasan. And then he talks about the following case. Hidlik ner Chanukah. You lit the ner of Chanukah. V'shachach levarich al hadlakasa. You forgot to make a bracha. V'rak koydem shidlik kulan. Right before you finished lighting all of them. Niskar, you remembered. Da'adayin loy birach. You didn't make the bracha yet. Yesh loy levarich kol habrachas. You can make all the brachas. Who does the Mishnah Brura quote? Chidushay Rabbi Eiger. But if you remembered after you lit all the candles, then could you make the bracha? You can't make lahadlik ner. Why? Because now you're missing the reason of the Eliyahu Rabbah of making a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah. There's no Hiddur mitzvah anymore. However, you could make sha'asanisim and shachiyanu because it's no worse than seeing it. But then the Mishnah Brura adds in number 7 in the Sharat Tzion the following.
So it's okay as long as you didn't lit the final candle.
Right. Rabbi, so listen to this. It's the 8th night of Chanukah, or David, even the 6th night of Chanukah. And let's say on the 6th night you lit 5 candles. And you say, oy vey, I didn't light the 6th, I didn't make a bracha.
You're allowed to say oy vey in Chanukah?
No, you say in your mind. Right? The Rashba holds in your mind, it's not Dibur. We just did that in the Sugya of Brachas, yeah? So, it's the 6th night, and you realize after lighting 5 candles, you didn't make a bracha. So Rabbi Eiger says you can make the bracha on the 6th. You say, all of a sudden, your sister opens up the window, and the first 5 candles blow out. Says Rabbi Akiva, so now you're no longer within the duration of doing the mitzvah. Because the candles blew out. Then you can't make a bracha on the 6th. The Eliyahu Rabbah say you could. The Eliyahu Rabbah says, well, it's Hiddur mitzvah. Yeah, but Rabbi Eiger says you need 3 reasons to be able to make the bracha on the 6th candle. Reason number 1 is it's Hiddur mitzvah that you have. Reason number 2 is there are some poskim that hold you could always make the bracha after that you have. But according to the reason of you're out of the duration of the fulfillment of the mitzvah, you don't have that anymore because the first 5 blew out. So if the candles are still burning bright, you could make the bracha on the 6th. If the first candles have blown out, says Rabbi Eiger, you can't make the bracha on the 6th. Okay? So that's the bottom line. Bottom line is, do you make a bracha on Hiddur mitzvah? It's machlokes achronim. Pri Chadash says no, Eliyahu Rabbah says yes. But in a case where on the 6th night of Chanukah you lit 5 and you realize you didn't make a bracha, we have 3 reasons to make the bracha. Number 1, hider mitzvah. Number 2, you're still within the duration of the mitzvah. And number 3, there are poskim who hold that brachos are not required to be made b'diavad oiver lasiyasan. Okay, Rabbi say, I wish you all a freilich and Chanukah.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.